the MicroBrewr podcast. Here's your host, Joe Shellaroo.
All right, and welcome to the 8th MicroBrewr podcast. I just get excited every time we get to increase those numbers. And like I always say, I'm having so much fun doing this podcast. If you're new to the podcast, I really want to welcome you. What we tend to do is focus on people who are looking at starting up breweries or who already own their breweries and want to take them to the next level. But we've also had a number of people who would just love to hear the different stories of other people who have started up breweries. So wherever you're at, I just want to welcome you to the podcast. And it has just been so awesome to see the amount of activity that this podcast has been getting. Every time we've launched a new podcast episode, it sets another record for download. So I just want to personally say thank you so much for listening. It means the world to me. And if we could get in contact, I just love hearing people's stories and their perspectives. Probably the best way is to find me on Twitter or Facebook. You can just search for MicroBrewr, and that's MicroBrewr. Or else you can find my contact stuff on microbrewer.com, and you can send like an email, and then I'll get back to you that way. So any way we can get in contact, I just love hearing your stories, so please do that. So today on the podcast, we have Mark Slattery from CrowdBrewed.com. And overall, this is a crowdfunding platform that really focuses on the craft beer industry. And so I had heard about some crowdfunding campaigns before, but didn't really know the details on how they work. So Mark did a great job on walking through exactly how these crowdfunding campaigns work and how you can use them to fund a brewery that you're starting up or your existing brewery if you want to expand. There's also a lot of cases where people are doing that. Besides raising money for the brewery, it's also a great way to market your brewery and let those loyal fans really invest in you, which is awesome. And it's another aspect that I didn't really think about. And so by the end of the podcast, you'll know how crowdfunding campaigns work, how to avoid some of the pitfalls of different crowdfunding campaigns that haven't done as well, and you'll be able to know if crowdfunding is right for you. So we'll just jump right into the interview. All right, and on the podcast today, I want to welcome Mark Slattery from CrowdBrewed. Mark, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Joe. Good to talk to you today.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you too. So for people who aren't familiar with CrowdBrewed, could you give us an overview on exactly what you're doing with the site?
Sure. So my partner, Travis Benoit, and myself started the website about 8 months ago. And what it is it's a crowdfunding platform specifically targeting the craft beer industry. So if you're familiar with crowdfunding a little bit, you've heard of Kickstarter, Indiegogo, those type of websites. And what we do is basically help a very specific niche market in the craft beer industry. And we feel that really helps target the campaigns to the right audience and kind of create a community of craft beer fans that are helping out the craft beer industry by helping either new breweries get started or breweries expand or the whole ecosystem of the craft beer industry we're really interested in. So hops and grain and everything like that, people creating products. We're looking for all sorts of, really unique stuff and we've been somewhat successful so far, and we're looking to keep that going.
Yeah, so I'm sure that some of the audience is familiar with crowdfunding, others aren't. Could you explain the process and how that works?
Sure. So the typical crowdfunding and what we call rewards-based crowdfunding is a way to to fundraise. And so in the world today, there's the typical way people raise funds is either themselves or family and friends, or they get a bank loan. And crowdfunding is kind of that next option for fundraising. And what that entails is you put up a campaign, you set a target goal for your fundraise, you create rewards or either experiences, products, services, things like that you're giving in exchange for someone's donation. So you can have somebody give you $50 and give them, a T-shirt and pint glasses or different things like that. We've had people do beer clubs, mug clubs, things things like that, parties, experiences, brewing with the head brewer, all sorts of things like that. So that's the gist of it. It's a donation system.
Okay. So with that, you're not having to give up any ownership or anything else like that with the actual.
Not on the rewards-based crowdfunding. We are doing equity crowdfunding as well, which is a whole other can of worms, and I can also go into that if you want me to.
Yeah, let's talk about the rewards-based crowdfunding just a little bit more first, and then we can definitely go into the equity portion too.
Sure.
So for the rewards-based, you talked about setting a goal, and how do you do that? What do you decide? Can I just put the whole the whole cost of my brewery up there as my goal? It doesn't seem very realistic.
Sure. Yeah. You can do it a whole bunch of different ways. We have the options for people to do fixed funding, which is the Kickstarter model of you set out to get 20,000, and if you get anything less than that, no one is charged, and you do not get any money. We also do flexible fundraising, which is kind of the Indiegogo model of it, where you can ask or try to get to 20,000, and if you get 10, you still receive that money, and people are still charged for that, and you still are on the hook to provide those rewards to those people. So obviously that's something that the campaign owner chooses, and they choose for a variety of different reasons, and we help them with that choice. We can really talk to them and help them not only set up their campaign, but also talk with them about the rewards that we've seen do well and what might work in their community, and also targeting a goal based on their network, based on what we can help with our network, and what we think they can get and what they need to actually accomplish their goals. So that's a big portion of it is what do you need to accomplish your goal, and what is the probability that you can get that, and then kind of finding the right number between those two criteria.
All right. So when you're talking about rewards, and say I'm a brewery that's trying to raise funds, do you have different tiers of rewards? Or is it everybody giving a specific amount and they get that exact, say, a tour of the brewery or free beer for a month?
Sure. So the campaign owner can decide whatever they want to put out there as rewards. We like to kind of counsel people to do three different tiers of rewards, as you said, to do kind of the lower end, under $50. Try to target, the masses to really be on your side for that. People that are interested, but they want to feel like they're a part of the community and that they're helping something, but they have, their $25 or something like that they can get a T-shirt in response. We like to find something in the $100 to $300 level range that's going to be kind of a big hit, whether it's a brewery club membership or something of that nature, or an experience, or a grand opening party ticket, or something of that nature. Because if you can do that and it does well, you'll see your campaign really start to take off at that point. And then we also like to tell people to have kind of the bigger, higher end levels of rewards in the $500 to up to $10,000 we've seen. And that's for, the super fans, or, a lot of times those go to friends and family. Those are things that are experiences, either brewing, helping to brew the beer, getting your name on a beer, helping to name something in the store. We had one where they gave away a VIP for life, so you get free beer and get somebody kicked out of your stool at the brewery, things like that. So, so we do like to kind of split it into those three types of tiers, but realistically it's up to the campaign owner and what they think will work with our coaching a little bit, and they can decide what they want to do.
Okay. And I can see the real benefits of people who are starting a brewery. Are there do breweries that are already established, do they also use crowdfunding?
Yeah, definitely. So we like to tell people and work with people that are, say, they're a nano right now, and they're on a small system, and they'd like to crowdfund to get a 15-barrel system or get or something like that, so they can up their production level. The people that love their beer can get more of it and can help that brewery get to that next level. Or they want to do something with their tap room. We've seen that before. They want to expand. They want to buy a canning line, a bottling line, things like that. So they can definitely use crowdfunding to take what they have and use it as a way to use their fans and their network to help them expand.
Okay. And I can also see the benefit of this, not only raising the funds, but also getting, I guess it's a good way to get your name out of there, too, when you're actually going through the crowdfunding phase.
Oh, definitely, yeah. That's a large portion of it, the marketing value of it to not only your community, but the beer community as well. We send out press releases. We have the campaigns do, we coach them on some of the marketing techniques to get their campaign noticed, and that definitely helps get their name out there.
Yeah. Could you talk about so we were just talking about crowdfunding where you're using rewards. Could you also talk about the equity portion? And just for people, the financial terms, equity is just essentially ownership of the brewery or ownership of the company.
Right, correct. So you've seen this model, maybe you've heard of BrewDog out in Scotland. And so they raised something in the realm of 2 million pounds for their brewery for expansion, and what they did was give away equity in their company online through their own website. Unfortunately, in the U.S., it's not entirely fully legal. It's in that gray area of been approved but not yet put into law, and different components of equity crowdfunding. So to break it down a little bit for everybody, there's the Jobs Act, which is Jumpstart Our Businesses Act, that was put into place a little over a year ago. Part of that talks about crowdfunding, and part of that talks about equity crowdfunding. So there is one part of it that is fully okay right now and fully signed into law and everything like that, and that's Title II of the Jobs Act, which is equity crowdfunding, but for accredited investors only. And what that means is that accredited investors are high net worth individuals. You have to meet a certain amount of criteria for your net worth and your job status and different things like that. And then you are able to invest in companies online through equity crowdfunding. So
yeah, I always thought that was funny that an accredited investor is essentially just a rich person. They just assume that if you have a lot of money, you know everything there is to know about a business, so you're accredited and don't have to go through the whole process.
Right. Well, they feel it seems that those people are at least okay if they were to invest and lose, and so that's really what they're trying to watch out for, is having something where people get really riled up to invest something online, and then it loses people more money than they should have known to lose. And so that's I think what they're trying. And so Title III of crowdfunding deals with the everyday investor. It's been approved. It's not yet into law. People think maybe mid-year this year, maybe end of this year. At some point, though, there's enough backing that it seems that it's probably going to happen at some point. What they're talking about is basically the policing of it and who is in charge of understanding what people are investing and keeping track and things like that. And so the proposed rules are, I believe at this point, someone could invest $2,500 or 5% of their net income, whichever comes first in a calendar year. And that could be spread across different investments. But then again, like I mentioned, who polices that, who keeps track, those are some of the things that they're talking about before that's fully put into place. But we're definitely excited for that, and we have a platform already set up to take on equity crowdfunding right now for the accredited side, but also in the future for the everyday investor. And we really feel that that's going to benefit the craft beer industry, because when when every craft beer lover loves to own a small portion of their favorite brewery, even if it's a percent or a tenth of a percent or something like that, I think that's really gonna take off.
Yeah, and Mark, I think you hit on a great point right there too. Is that when somebody actually invests in your brewery, I mean, you couldn't find a more loyal fan than that. And so just having that out there, and not only are you raising funds, you're getting your name out, but you're also getting somebody actually invested in the company. I mean, that's great.
Right. And so I think we're going to see some new breweries attempt to go this route to start their crowdfunding. But where I think it's really going to do well are the small to mid-level to maybe even a larger microbrewery in the U.S. that's going to open up a small, very small percentage of their company to the everyday fans and really use that to bring in their core fans, to create brand ambassadors, but also to help value the company. I mean, if they sell 1% off to 10,000 fans in the U.S. at $1,000 a piece, well, now you valued 1% of your company at whatever that is, and that then translates to the whole rest of your company. So you can really up your value as a brewery by doing that.
Yeah, no, that's another great point. Hey, so as you've seen different crowdfunding campaigns go through, which ones have done better, and why do you think that they've done better?
Well, the ones that always do better are the ones that had an accurate amount of time and planning, and also are further along in the process than you might think. And we like to tell people that to at least take 3 months to do the proper steps before you launch a crowdfunding campaign. And we also like to tell people that crowdfunding for your brewery should not be the first step in the process. We feel that it could be a very valuable step in the process, but should not be the first step. There shouldn't be, hey, I think I want to open a brewery. I'm going to throw it up on a crowdfunding site and see if I can make the money to get it. That will fail 90% of the time. So the things that the campaigns that do well have been thought out, either have a space already picked out, have their licensing already done, have some buzz going. You want to create an atmosphere that when you launch your campaign, it's going to fall on a lot of eyes, and people are ready. They know that it's coming. They're ready to invest or to donate, and they want what you're going to be producing. So that's what we try to accomplish, and I think that's the best advice for anybody out there.
Yeah, so it's really demonstrating that starting the brewery or taking the brewery to the next level, that it's not just a dream that's out there, that you're actually going through with it and showing people that, all right, this isn't just going to be, like I was saying, like a dream, that this is actually going to come out and your money is going to be put to good use in the actual brewery itself.
Right. And that's, I think, has really, the crowdfunding landscape has changed since Kickstarter first started. Which, when it first started was, this is really cool. I want to help my community. I want to help this interesting idea take off, and I just want to be a part of it. And if I get a T-shirt, I'm okay with that. And has really morphed into, I want to make sure that what I'm donating to is going to happen. It's going to come to fruition. I'm going to like it, and I also like what reward I'm getting back. So the crowdfunding customers have really changed to be discerning, and so you have to adapt to that and understand that you have to provide something that people are going to want to buy.
I know that any part of the raising money for a new business like a brewery can be pretty complicated. Is there any legal things that you need to take into consideration, like when you're doing crowdfunding using the rewards program?
No, the only one that is basically if you'd like to offer, let's say, beer as a reward, to make sure that you offer it in a way that's consistent with whatever beer license you have. That's a big one. So if you're going to give away a beer club or you're going to give away bottles, make sure you don't promise people you're going to be sending them when you're not allowed to, or things like that. That's a large one. And then the biggest one, which I don't know, we've definitely never come across it. I don't know if anybody really has, but is you do have a somewhat of a customer contract to provide the service, experience, or product to the customer, and if you're unable to, you have to provide a refund, or there could be some type of recourse from a customer, and that's kind of the biggest. There's a little bit of a gray area as to what happens if a brewery or any other crowdfunding campaign raised $20,000 and somehow they're unable to provide the rewards to everybody. Is that just an investment loss for that person, or is there some type of recourse for that customer? I've never really seen that come to fruition before, so I'm not quite sure, but that's something to take into consideration. That's something that we take into consideration, especially if we're talking to somebody about a flexible funding campaign where they're allowed to keep the money even if they don't raise the full amount. Well, we take into account what are they raising it for? Will they be able to provide their services or their products if they raise less than their targeted goal? And if we feel that they're not, then we won't take it on that way, or we'll advise them that they have to do it fixed funding or something like that.
Okay, that's great. Hey, I know you talked about that not waiting until you're further along in the planning process is one of the common mistakes that you've seen made. Are there any other ones that you've seen with different crowdfunding campaigns that have just caused them to flop?
Let's see. I do. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some. If you are not providing the right type of rewards for your community, that's definitely something that will negatively affect you, and that's something that you should stay on top of and do some research before. What are people going to like? There's simple things like, are you in a crowded marketplace for a brewery, or something like that? People in a very densely populated craft beer community might not be willing to crowdfund for a new brewery when they already have 10 in town that they love. They'll wait until it does come to fruition, and then they'll go there and see if they like it, because they're already discerning, and it's already a crowded marketplace. For example, here in Denver, it might be a little bit tougher than, say, in Iowa or Kansas or something like that, where you might be in a town that this is their first brewery coming into town. The community is going to be 100% behind it because they really want that in their town. So that's definitely something to take into consideration in terms of how much you think you can raise and how you're going to go about doing it. Other pitfalls, to be honest, are really making sure that you've created your own personal network. And studies have kind of shown that if you can come to the table for a crowdfunding campaign with about 30%, already in hand, so to speak, that's the kind of the magic number that will tilt into a successful campaign. Is if your family, friends, network, or other people that you've started to build momentum with can at least get you to 30%, that's what helps other people take notice and the craft beer community take notice, and will really help it push it over the top.
Oh, okay. So when you actually do the crowdfunding campaign, you've already got that network established, so the day it launches, you let them all know, and they start to fund it. And then when other people come on, they can say, oh, well, other people are investing, so this is probably worth checking out.
Exactly. You can see that this is something that is most likely going to happen, and so now you feel more compelled to be a part of it. And that's kind of the whole crowd mentality. So we like to tell people that in order to be successful, some of it, a third of it or so has to come from them.
Yeah, and Mark, I love how you also touched on the community focus too, and just seeing who the other competitors are. If you are in a smaller town or a town where the craft beer movement hasn't hit as hard yet, I can see how a lot of people would get really excited, and focusing on that really community aspect when launching the crowdfunding campaign can be huge. And I think that's one of the key drivers for the craft beer movement as a whole, is just that local community-driven approach.
Yeah, we feel the same way, that it is very community-oriented, that I just, think about it from a marketing type of perspective. If you're in a larger city, getting the word out, while you might think it's easier, might hit a lot more people, you're not really, they've seen crowdfunding campaigns before, they get a lot of beer news, things like that. So if you're in a small town, it might be the biggest thing going for the whole month. And, you might be able to really capitalize on that.
Yeah. So Mark, why craft beer? Why did you focus on crowdfunding for different breweries?
Well, that's my partner Travis and I are big craft beer fans. I've been to about 250 breweries in the U.S., and I've been to Belgium and overseas, and been to a bunch of breweries, and I've been home brewing for a long time and kind of really involved in the craft beer world. I have a blog and a Twitter account here in Denver that's somewhat successful called Denver Beer Guy, and so I'm kind of just in the craft beer community and felt this is a natural fit for me.
That's great. So with all that you're seeing you get to see a lot of the different breweries that are raising funds. What's your overall perspective on the craft beer market? We've continued to see some amazing growth, and, you'll get different articles on this is going to grow forever versus this is going to start tapering out tomorrow. Any perspectives on what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think there's still a ton of room for growth. I think it is very dependent on the area and things like that. I think, as I was mentioning before, there's definitely a lot of portions of the country that craft beer has not hit, and so there's a lot of room for growth. I think in some of the bigger cities, you might see some tapering off or some slowdown. You might also see some of the newer ones close within a 3-year time span. But my philosophy is definitely quality wins out, and that there's no doubt that if somebody starts up tomorrow and they're brewing high quality beer, even in a crowded marketplace, people will seek that out. The consuming population of America is very interested in not only craft beer but craft products, food, all sorts of different things like that. So I don't see that slowing down at all, and I think craft beer is kind of one of the first focal points of it. But you'll see it. There's craft wineries coming out. There's craft coffee places, roasteries that are popping up all over the place. There's a real desire to have that sort of craft mentality, and so that's not going away. What just might go away is the cream of the crop will rise to the top and will stay around, and if it's not that, then that might be something that starts to dwindle a little bit. So there's always going to be people that probably shouldn't have gotten into the craft beer scene or that aren't making high quality craft beer, and if they're not in a populated area or they don't have a good business model, they might start to slowly fade away, and you'll see some of that happen. And some of the naysayers will definitely take that and say I told you so, but I still see craft beer as a general movement continuing to rise.
Yeah, I think you had a couple great points there. I was just recently talking to Aaron Brodniak. He's currently helping to start up a brew pub in Houston. Houston's the 4th largest city in the U.S., and Aaron was telling me that there's no brew pubs in the entire city, and that they're going to be the first one, which is just amazing to me. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, Denver here, there's one that just opened and I think it's like the second one in town. There's not a lot of, maybe third one. There's not a lot of places in town that make their own beer and serve high quality food. There's a lot of the food truck culture, but yeah, no, that's definitely, if you hit that unique niche, I think that's definitely going to help you out at this point in time.
Yeah, and another thing I've seen moving from the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, where they've got a pretty good craft beer scene, and coming down to Wichita, it seems to be a couple years behind in some of the more established cities in overall craft beer. But again, it's starting to take off here, so I think there's still a lot of different markets to go look at.
Definitely.
Yeah, you just got to keep your eye open. And then I also like how you talk about the different types of craft that's popping up. Another one that I've heard a lot about is craft cider that I've really seen exploding.
And we're actually talking, so we are excited about that as well. We are talking with cideries. We have a couple actual meaderies that we are going to be crowdfunding for. We have about 20 or so projects in our pipeline where we're working with them to build up their networks and build their campaigns out and have them do the right steps to be successful. And so, yeah, craft cider and craft mead are also parts of that I find really interesting and are starting to really take off.
So, Mark, for somebody who is listening to the podcast and they own a brewery or else they're thinking of starting up one and want to start up a crowdfunding campaign, what's the next steps for them?
So, I would definitely tell them, check out our website, see kind of some of the past campaigns we've done. We just finished raising about $55,000 for a unique craft beer place in San Francisco. It's a place that's going to be a nano brewery, a home brew shop, and a brewery incubator all in one, which is a great, cool, unique idea and really took off there. They can, if they want to just go to the website and sign up right away, they can go to CrowdBrewed.com/rewards and just click start a campaign, and there's an easy way to submit it. If they'd rather email us, they can email me at mark@crowdbrewed.com, info@crowdbrewed.com, say that they're interested. That's the way a lot of people do. They just email us rather than starting a campaign. We like to provide a really hands-on service. Not only does it help differentiate us from Kickstarter, but we feel it really helps to create successful campaigns if we are on board helping people throughout the entire process. So they can just email us and tell us their idea, and we can start a conversation from there and decide, what they should be going after and how they should be attacking it.
And what we'll do is for any of the different links that you talked about, we'll provide contact information for Mark, and then we'll also have links on the show notes page on microbrewer.com. Last thing I want to talk about, Mark, is just some of the results from the Kickstarter campaigns. Can you go through a couple that you've had on your site and what they've been able to raise?
Sure. So we've the one that we launched, we did a beta test campaign for a brewery in Columbus, Ohio. We raised $15,000 for, and then we did our big launch, which was J. Wakefield Brewing down in Miami, Jonathan Wakefield, and we raised about $112,000 for him, which crushed any other craft beer crowdfunding campaign that had ever been. I think the closest one before that was some $61,000 for, I think, the place in Texas. So we close to doubled that, and that really helped put us on the map and get us out there to the craft beer community. And we've done things from all over to just small raises for homebrew supply shops that are expanding. We did one in Georgia, did one here in Denver that was trying to raise money to kind of expand and beautify their tap room. And they have not opened yet, but they will be opening soon. Let me think here. We've done, I mentioned the one in San Francisco, which is a really cool, unique idea and fresh in my mind. And their concept is to invite home brewers in to help, to work with them to brew on their system, to put their beer out in their nano brewery, and to really help find the next great brewers in San Francisco, which I think is a really cool idea. So those are
cool.
some of the types of campaigns we've got. Like I mentioned, we're talking to cideries and meaderies. We're talking to people that want to start new breweries, but we're also talking to people that want to do other things in the craft beer industry. They want to make unique products, whether it's six-pack holders or growler covers or things like that. We're talking with people that want to open growler stores, a growler fill store in different campuses and colleges around the U.S. We're even talking to national brands that want to expand their offerings. So those are some of the things that people can look forward to that we'll be launching here over the next couple of months.
It's all great stuff. And yeah, I think you've got a great thing going, and anything that contribute to this amazing craft beer movement is awesome. So thanks for setting this site up. It's great, Mark.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. Thank you for taking notice. And yeah, it's been great talking with you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking with you too, Mark. All right, we'll see you later.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right, and again, I really want to thank Mark for that great interview and teaching us all about crowdfunding. So if you want to check out more about crowdfunding, you can go to crowdbrewed.com and check out Mark's site. Also, you could go to microbrewer.com/session8. This is where we've got all the show notes for the podcast. So anything that we talked about, I've got it summarized there. So any different links or anything, you can come back and check those out. So finally, if you're thinking of starting up a crowdfunding campaign, or if you're just looking to get more exposure for your brewery, social media really plays a big part. And what we've done is, just as my thanks for listening, we put together a free ebook on 6 free social media tools that you can use to build your presence online. And essentially, I know that for most breweries, your advertising budget is pretty tight, if not completely zero. So this is some free tools that you can use to really get the word out. If you want this, you can get it for free. Just go to microbrewer.com. Again, that's microbrewer.com/ebook, and it'll take you right there. So again, I just want to thank you so much for listening, and enjoy, support your local brewery, and we'll see you next time on the MicroBrewr podcast.
Thanks for listening to the MicroBrewr podcast with Joe Shellerud. We'll see you right here next time at microbrewer.com.